What's up, y'all? Welcome to On the Record, the Fat Records fan podcast, where we're going album by album, side by side, and roughly chronologically through the whole damn catalog. I'm one of your hosts, Alex Newman, joined by Ben and Josh and Ben's cat, Budget.
He's
Only you would have a cat named Budget. I
those
love,
is
I simultaneously love, and I'm just maddened by that.
the best part was that it was his name when I got him.
Really?
Like, the adoption place was just calling him
That's
Budget.
okay. You know
So,
what? I take that all back. That's like perfect. That's
I believe
absolutely
he
perfect.
I believe the name is because he was found near, like, a budget like a garage for, like,
Oh
budget rental.
yeah, that's amazing.
It is amazing. What a coincidence. It was meant to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
adoption places always love any sort of like pun related animal name.
All right. Well, today's record is a doozy. It's one of, in my opinion, this is another one of the best records that Fat ever put out. It is
This is definitely a Hall of Famer.
Strung Out Suburban Teenage Wasteland Blues. Let's go through the liner notes real quick before we get started. This was released on April 23rd, 1996, the same day as the last record we talked about, Propagandi's Let's Talk More Rock, which, like I said before, pretty amazing to grab both of those records on the same day.
Yeah, that's a solid haul.
Yeah. The lineup was Jason Cruz on vocals, Jake Kiley on guitar, Rob Ramos on guitar, Jim Cherry on bass, and Jordan Burns on drums. It was recorded at Rumbo Recorders in Canoga Park, California, Razor's Edge Recording in San Francisco, California, and Fat Planet Studios in Van Nuys, California.
Wow.
Yeah, it was recorded by Ryan Green and Sean Berman. The fun fact about the title of the record, it's an amalgamation of the Bob Dylan song Subterranean Homesick Blues, and a phrase from the song Baba O'Reilly by The Who.
Batting 500, I'm into it. Bob Dylan's the worst.
I completely agree with that statement.
Muppet ass old man.
Not a fan. I just don't vibe with it. It just doesn't shut up.
The guy from Spazz sounds less dumb than Bob Dylan, and that guy just sounds insane. So,
Oh, man. What if Bob Dylan fronted Spazz?
what if Spazz covered Bob Dylan?
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't need to hear
I don't
that.
really like him too much.
I kind of want that album now. Spazz, please reunite if you're broken up and record that.
Would it be as good as Mariah Carey's grunge album? Because I'm very interested.
I would love to hear that.
Yeah.
Dude, I bet it's real good.
I mean, I'm very curious. I'd love to hear it.
I feel like it's out there somewhere, right?
I don't know if is that the rumor that it is out there? I know like she came out and was like, I think it should be released, was all the stories I've seen.
Okay, because I know it
Probably
was
has
like it wasn't her name attached to it, right? Like it was like almost like a secret album.
I think it was like maybe like a pseudonym or like a band, like a faux band name or something. I'm not real sure.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to hear who has writing credits on it and stuff like that.
Yeah. I'm morbidly curious about that one.
For sure.
But until then, let's get into this record. I'm just gonna say from the top that I'm biased on this one. This is one of my favorite punk albums ever.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite albums in general as well.
It's really fantastic. I think it's a real achievement and like a high watermark for skate punk. Just because nobody else really has a sound quite like Strung Out does on this one in particular.
No, this is a level up moment for this band. Like Another Day in Paradise is good, but this is great. Like it's a huge leap in everything. Songwriting, I mean, all around.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, every time I come back to it, I still love it almost as much, if not as much, as I did when I was listening to it in high school. So
yeah, same.
Yeah, its ability to sound as fresh as it ever has is really impressive.
Yeah. So I remember this. I actually sort of, as I was doing research about this record, I remembered reading like forever ago about how Ozzy Osbourne was somehow involved with this record, and I finally discovered why I thought that, and it's because it's on Fat's website.
Oh, weird.
The website description of this record says, the only album on Fat mixed by Ozzy. But I don't think that's true.
I'm sure that's not true. I don't think Ozzy could point out a mixing deck if you asked him to. In all honesty, like even in his more like coherent days, like all things considered.
Well, apparently he's all cleaned up now, which is why he's got a new album coming out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you have to be for as many surgeries as this guy's had over the last, handful of years with his back and everything.
No, well, I mean, I'm repping some Black Sabbath today, so
I saw that. I was very happy to see that.
Fucking love Paranoid. But yeah, so after looking into it, the person who actually is credited as the mix engineer on this is also a fellow Brit, is Max Norman, and he did work on some of Ozzy's records.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But I don't know if maybe Ozzy was a consultant on this somehow, like uncredited. Maybe he did some kind of work on this that I don't know. I don't know why that description calls that out when there seems to be no evidence otherwise that that's even true.
I mean, if he mixed Ozzy stuff, it could just be an inside joke where like he may have played it for Ozzy and Ozzy could have said something as silly as like, you make the guitars a little louder or whatever. And it's like, we can claim it's mixed by Ozzy now. Like, and I mean, those dudes are such metal nerds and such Ozzy nerds to begin with. Like that feels like a thing they would love to pull, even if it's like
totally,
a thread of the truth.
I don't listen to much solo Ozzy. Is it the case that maybe it just sounds a lot like solo Ozzy as well?
Like I mean, there's definitely some riffs that they don't like lift things from Ozzy, but they definitely pay like huge homage to, Jakey Lee and all the like oh my god, Randy Rhoads, all the other guys that legendary players Ozzy's had over the years in this solo band.
Yeah, well, I mean, on some of the earlier material, me and Ben talked about this when we talked about the first album, but some of that early material really kind of pulls stuff directly from Black Sabbath, which is cool. Just a tiny bit of it, not like it's not egregious or anything, but it's like a good nod.
Yeah, it's definitely like an influences on your sleeve
for sure
vibe with a lot of that stuff,
and that stuff's really fun too.
Mm-hmm.
But in addition to this, I found an interview with Jake Kiley, where he actually talked about the mixing of this record, and he didn't even mention Ozzy. So I pulled this from a interview we'll put in the show notes. This website called noecho.net. So shout out to them for this.
They do great stuff.
So this is Jake talking about that. He said, we pushed ourselves. Oh, wait. I guess I didn't totally pull that. Anyway, he was talking about the recording of this record in particular. And I thought it was interesting. He said, we pushed ourselves hard, but to be honest, I was very unhappy with the sound of that album. It was a crazy session. We bounced around between studios, and I feel at the end, we just rushed a bunch of shit through. Fans love it, though, so that's all that really matters. And the reason I even call this out is because they remastered this record in 2014?
Somewhere in that, 2014, 2015. They did this and then Twisted by Design, I believe.
And Another Day in Paradise, which was much improved. We talked about
that one sounded miles.
Oh my god! It was like, original. I mean, it was like me and Ben talked about it. It sounds like a different record.
It's an old car with a brand new, coat of paint. I mean, it just looks and sounds leagues better.
It's fantastic. But I just kind of wanted to get your takes on the remaster, because in my opinion, I think it kind of nukes it. Like, it just sort of ruins the unique sound that it had.
It sounds like a demo.
They killed the bass, man.
What bass? I mean, literally, you nailed it. There's this is And Justice for All. Like, it's all the low end is gone.
Yeah, When I first time I listened to it, I was like really excited. I was like, oh, I wonder if it'll how much better this could sound, and I was immediately disappointed.
Like there's a few moments where I do think it really does improve in certain songs. Like it adds some
Sure.
really cool elements.
Yeah.
And you get to hear there's a lot of weird guitar leads I didn't hear before and things like that, but it takes so much away from the thickness of the record that it leaves me just desperate to go back to the original one.
Yeah, it did sound like they left out like an entire guitar track at certain points, but it's really
Yeah.
it's because of the bass, because the bass was tuned so high, and it was so like sort of like just it wasn't that really like low end bass mix. It was way more of like almost like a bass tuned to sound more like a guitar in some ways to me.
Yeah. It's that kind of that almost that 88 Fingers Louis early Rise Against sound with like Mr. Precision, where it was like
Yeah.
a really tight bass sound, but like you said, it's tuned like a higher end, I guess.
Yeah. And to me, even like that sort of like the whine of the guitars sounds more like No Effects and Lagwagon at that
Yeah, I
from
could
that
see
time.
that.
Yeah, I don't know. It just feels like a completely different take on it somehow. Even though it's the original recording, which is pretty wild to me.
Yeah.
It really almost sounds like a different recording altogether.
The biggest thing to me is you listen at the end to that demo of Jacqueline from what becomes Jackie O for Element of Sonic Defiance. That's the demo version of that track, and I don't notice a difference going from the last song on this record into Jacqueline. Like they sound tonally the same, and to me that's a bummer if you're remastering and remixing a record.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. I kind of always thought the original did have kind of a shitty sound to it, but that was why I liked it.
Yeah, it had like a warmth to it, kind of, but
it was way less polished sounding than like Twisted by Design or any of
very
the.
much so.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty different from that, but I think I don't know. This is like a definitely like a stepping stone record for this band. Like they they definitely like this Strung Out changes so much over time that
Oh yeah, record to record even.
right. But this really does feel like it just feels like it's a step up, but at the same time it doesn't quite go as far as some of the other records do in terms of changing their sound. Um yeah, and I think that makes it unique though, as just it must I don't know, it just must have been the whole situation that they were in, all these different studios that they're recording in and stuff. I don't know, it produced like that like weird situation somehow produced like a really interesting album that nothing else sounds like this. And I think
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Um let's see here. The other thing I wanted to call out here that I thought was really funny was I did find a an interview with Jason Cruz where he talked about how the band got signed to Fat, which I didn't see this before.
I don't think I've ever heard this.
He said, I think we were the fourth band to sign, and I remember BYO wanted to sign us.
Oh wow.
We were really familiar with Youth Brigade and the Stern Brothers, who were on BYO. They had a reputation, and we were like, "Who the fuck is Fat Mike? And what the fuck is Fat Records?" BYO turned us down because we were too metal, and Fat Records wanted to do a 7-inch. Me and Jim Cherry carpeted Fat Mike's house and convinced him to do a full length. Jim owned a carpet company, and I worked with him on weekends. People always ask, "How did you get a record deal?" I always say, "I don't know. I carpeted some dude's house."
That's amazing. That's one of the best how did you get signed stories I think I've ever heard.
It's pretty great. So I'm definitely into it.
Hey man, use your connections. If you've got them, why not?
See, these are the types of stories that I love. And the other thing that I wanted to call out about the recording of this record that Jake talked about was that he said, you didn't see many punk bands doing guitar solos and a technique called pinch harmonics, which
Yeah.
pinch harmonics, that's like one of those like sort of like music slang jargon types of like techniques that I've never heard of because I'm not a musician, but I really like when musicians actually drop that stuff into interviews because I'm just so fascinated with how it all works.
Yeah. And if you're not familiar, just any Zakk Wylde song, if you just play one of those, you're going to hear 750 pinch harmonics. So if you're not familiar, it's an easy way to understand what it is.
Yeah. I mean, also you can also just listen to Strung Out because they use it the whole goddamn time.
That's also, they do love playing with that.
Yeah. It's really cool. Anyway, let's get into the actual record. Enough preamble, and let's talk about side one. And we're gonna start at the top because, for me, this is like a legendary opening track.
Yeah.
Because when I first heard it, I was completely mesmerized. I would sit there and listen to it on repeat, and I don't really do that. But man, it's so good. There's like that bass intro is so awesome.
Yeah, it's one of the on the remaster. It's one of the 3 instances where you hear the bass.
Yeah.
No, it's this band at their peak. I mean, it's political, but it's really smart. Like,
Oh, I got a question about the politics of this.
there's some odd politics on this record. Not odd, but
Well,
very
no.
interesting.
Is it supposed to be from like Jason or Jim's perspective?
I don't really know.
Because there's a draft reference at the beginning.
Yeah.
That was why I was completely confused. I wasn't sure if it was like meant to be like from the perspective of somebody like during Vietnam.
It's probably just general commentary, I would think.
Yeah. It's interesting too because it's not as though like politically this song says anything like too outlandish or crazy that like you haven't heard before on records by similar bands, but it's just so well written that I feel like it puts it just a couple notches above everything. I mean, we talked last episode about Die for Your Government, and like to look at the political songs on that record versus a song like this. I mean, like it's the same ideology, but it's a very different, way of getting there.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think the lyrics are great. I mean, and I would say that the lyrics are great across this entire record.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I still think that Jason gets much better as time goes on. He sort of tackles more unique topics later on. I think a lot of the topics that he covers here, while it's very well written, and I love a lot of the lines in some of these songs, and we'll talk about those. But I think in terms of the topics, it's not terribly unique.
No, it's largely personal, stories and things like that. It feels like for a lot of these songs.
Yeah.
It's about like, not getting along with your family, having a drug and or drinking problem.
Yep. Yeah, it's a lot of personal abuse issues and things like that too.
And like a general decline of America.
Like, yeah, that's that nails
for
it.
like good measure.
Yeah. I mean, if there was a Fat Wreck lyrics coloring book, this would be
for sure.
Yeah. He's just
that's a great Fat Wreck lyrics. I like that. We should make one of those.
Yeah.
That'll be our first piece of merch someday is the Fat Wreck lyrics coloring book. Just color by numbers.
Like bubble lyrics or something.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, hey, you know what? NoFX has a coloring book.
It's true.
Was that like the hepatitis bathtub or whatever the hell it is? Yeah.
I don't know. It's a great name for it though.
Something like that. Something weird. But I appreciate it. I think it's great.
For sure. Shout outs to coloring.
I'm a fan as an artist.
Yeah.
But yeah, Firecracker, it is an absolute highlight.
It is exactly that.
It's absolutely fantastic, and I will still on occasion just play it back to back, and I just don't put stuff on repeat, man. I just don't. But this one, it still gets me.
The thing I like to repeat a bunch when I was like 15.
What's that?
Like the first 10 seconds of Caboose by Snapcase.
Dude, yes.
The drum
Those drums?
Dude, I'm not even a Snapcase fan, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Probably because you played it for me at some point.
Like listening to playing Age of Empires or something. Just like, just hitting back every time it gets past.
How some hardcore kid hasn't done the like Snapcase Caboose drum intro 10 hours video yet is beyond me.
I mean, I could.
Dude, I would watch all 10 hours. I'd be like, this is the greatest video I've ever seen.
I made a 2-minute long loop of the HR scatting from Soulcraft.
Sell that ringtone.
Could certainly turn
Second
that into
piece
10
of
hours.
podcast merch. Sorry, HR, we're selling your likeness for voicemails.
I support it. All right, let's move on to the next track, "Better Days."
This is a fine one.
I really like this one. I love that guitar lead. The wah wah wah, like it still gets me. It's so good, man.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's not bad by any means. I would say it's probably one of the lower tracks for me if I was ranking them.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's all relative considering how good pretty much every song on this record is.
Yeah, I mean, for me, even like sort of the low points of this record are still really good.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, I really like the chorus on this one, and I really love that part where it comes to like a full stop, and then the guitar jumps back in. You know, it's those little flourishes that really help make really the whole record what it is. I think it's having almost like an element of spontaneity.
Yeah, it gives it a lot of character and personality.
Yeah. Any thoughts on this one, Ben?
I like it. I think that some of the lyrics are very catchy to this song, and it's just a song that feels good to listen to.
Yeah. That's the name of this game really does for this record feel like just a mood boost. Like even if the lyrical content isn't exactly upbeat, if it's dealing with, depression or whatever, end of the world type shit, like the hooks still give you enough of like a shot of endorphins to make you go like, yeah, well, at least I've got this great fucking album to listen to.
For sure.
Windows down,
yeah,
nice
man.
70-degree day.
Oh,
yeah.
man. Yeah.
Great like spring summer record.
Yeah. I mean, that's really like some of my best memories of listening to this record are definitely of just driving around.
Oh yeah.
It's great. All right, let's talk about Solitaire, because I think this is a highlight.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean the hook on this one gets stuck in my head so easily. Like
Yes.
all I have to do is think about this song, and I'm like, well, now I just can't stop thinking about it.
When I think about the game, it makes me think about the song sometimes.
Absolutely.
But I will say that when you look at the lyrics, Solitaire has never been so kinky, man. There's
someone just stole that for like a sexy solitaire game on like
right.
a shady website.
It's just like reading through the lyrics, there's just so many allusions to like the person that he's talking about, almost being like it's like a loneliness dominatrix or something. It's he says, "I hurt myself again today. I'm feeling a little numb. I could use the pain. I always find myself in this little bind." I mean, all of that is just like dude, you want to be tied up?
Well, I think he's like tied up
I
in
know.
that, like his thoughts about that person.
Yeah, right, but it works both ways too.
No, exactly.
Right, and because then he also says, he drops that thing about the cat o' nine tails.
Oh yeah, it's true.
Like that's I mean that right there gives away the whole thing. Like that's like it's definitely like he's alluding to it almost. Like this breakup is like he's just self-flagellating or something.
I don't even think it's a breakup. I think that it's like somebody that's like ambivalent about it.
Well,
like,
okay, yeah. So
he's just torturing himself in his head the entire time.
And that's how
Yeah.
I think that this actually can directly relate to the following song, Never Good Enough.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny to see that sort of like that relationship between these two songs that are back to back.
They do a bunch of that.
They do feel like a pairing for sure.
Yeah, they do it. They definitely do it again later on in the record.
S&M type or kinky sex type themes come up a lot in Strung Out records too. There's one in Twisted by Design.
Well,
There's one on
you ever seen
Velvet?
the fucking video for Cemetery.
Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking about that song from from American Paradox.
Yeah, I love that record.
Yeah. That's a good one too. But yeah, Solitaire, it's a great track. And then I also really love the following song, Never Good Enough. That intro is so good. And the guitars, that guitar slide that like transitions into the verse rules, man. It's like the aural equivalent of drawing back a slingshot and firing or something. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And then like just more great hooks. It's just got like a great flow to it.
Yeah, this record is sequenced really, really well.
Very well. I totally agree. Any other thoughts on Never Good Enough?
Yeah, I mean,
no.
Jason just sings so fast at the start of the song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just in general, I mean, it's funny to think that like, I did read some other interview where he was asked, I think it was on Vice, he was asked to rank his band's records, like which ones he likes the most to the least, and he ranked the first 2 records as his least favorite.
Interesting.
And where he didn't seem to like say anything bad necessarily. He just like,
sure,
he's very much a guy that seems like he's in a growth mindset and he's always thinking about what's happening now, and he doesn't worry so much about what he's done before, which I think is that's cool. I mean, like, I get that. It's something I can definitely relate to, but to even the thought of ranking this record that low is wild to me.
Yeah, that would not be not be where it would be on my list.
No, I don't think so. All right, let's talk about Gearbox.
Dude, this song rips.
Or really,
it's so good.
Yeah, I think really like the next 3 tracks, Gearbox, Monster, and Bring Out Your Dead. I think they sort of showcase a lot of the elements that the band expounds on as it goes along. Like a lot of these elements from these 3 songs in particular get carried over to the later ones.
Yeah.
It's like you can start to see where like the direction that the band is taking. But on this one, you know, I really love like the second half of this song. You know, the guitar, just the melodies of the guitars and the solos are just really good.
Yeah, it's so the guitars in this are really like, it sounds weird to describe it as sharp, but like it feels like musically, it just feels fucking dangerous. Like it feels like a song that's gonna cut your fingers.
I mean, these lyrics like kind of match up with that too.
Yeah, it's a very harsh song.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could go either way, but it seems like it's about a relationship either with a friend or maybe even a parent that's gone sour.
Yeah, that was the impression I got, was, you know, whether it be
Yeah.
due to religion or familial strife or whatever the
Right.
the actual causation is, but
Yeah,
it felt very much like a severing a relationship with a family member of some sort.
yeah. And I think honestly, like my favorite part in the entire song comes at the very, very, very end. Just because that last line, the way you torch my whole world, and like the way that the solo sort of follows that, it gives it some extra weight that I really love.
Yeah, the tone of the whole song is really incredible.
Yeah, it's great. All right, what do you think about Monster, Ben?
That's a strung out song.
Monster? Really?
Super underrated. Super
That's
underrated.
A strung out song. I love listening to it. There's so many great like little lyrics in it.
Yeah.
This is, I think, another case of them telling a story, not necessarily being somebody's.
Right.
I mean, I guess it's possible like one of them had been in a gang at some point, because that seems to be a big chunk of what the song's about.
Yeah, I listened to this record for God knows how many years, and only today was I like, oh my God, this is a story about a dude in a gang. Like, it was one of those songs that just never clicked for whatever reason.
Yeah, no, it seems like it was probably like very intentional to put it out at that time too, because like it's the time period when like the news and everything was just demonizing like anybody that might even possibly be in a gang sort of thing. That
Mhm.
whole big gang scare was going on at this time. So
Yeah.
it kind of seemed like a very much like kind of a walk a mile in this person's shoe sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's showing some empathy for somebody who's stuck in this situation, which I think is really
Absolutely.
interesting.
Especially the turn it takes towards the end about not having a way out and
Yep.
making decisions you don't necessarily want to have to make because you've kind of painted yourself into a corner. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really, really sad the way it turns, but the whole song is beautifully written. It flows really well vocally. Like you said, there's tons of great lines in it too.
Yeah, Ben, you nailed it. It's a lot of like great storytelling. Um, the line that always stands out to me is the only family that I've ever known is the gun that's by my side.
Yeah, I was like, man,
good
what
line.
a fucking line, dude.
Like ghetto birds like the evening sky as the sun
That's
begins to fall.
dude.
Okay.
Just getting to hear Jason Cruz say "ghetto birds" is worth buying this record.
The live version of this song, I think, has just like the most fucks added to it as well, right?
I think
Is it?
the live version of the song is actually better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love the live version of that whole live record is so good, except for the weird things Jason does on it besides singing.
Yeah, he makes those weird noises like woo, 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 those,
He
like,
keeps
weird
making like a
noises.
bird noise.
Yeah, it's
It
strange.
sounds like a fucking warbler or something.
Maybe he's just secretly into bird calls.
I know it's a little early for a punk rock show. Worst banter. That's the other live record where I know all the banter, and not because it's funny, it's because it's awful.
Well, they've never been known for great banter on stage, at least
No,
as far
God,
as I'm
no.
concerned. But I mean, also, I'm pretty sure that anytime I've ever seen them, they barely say anything.
Yeah, no, it's usually just rip through songs. Thanks for coming. This is a new one. This is the cover. Good night.
They're fucking pros, man. They get up there and do their thing.
Dude,
and
yeah.
they're out.
They just do the damn thing.
Yeah, they're real fucking good at it too. All right, let's talk about the last song on side one. It is another huge highlight on this record.
Dude.
Bring Out Your Dead. It's notable for a whole bunch of reasons, but for me, it's mostly because of that fucking guitar solo. It's so hard. And there's more of that wah wah that like is really cool. I love that shit.
Even just that riff that opens the song is just so crunchy and like aggressive right out of the gate.
Yeah.
The group vocal. Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
Oh, I was gonna ask, what is that lifted from? Because it sounds like
the riff.
Yeah, it sounds like it's from some sort of like kind of more like not even a rock song, some sort of like classic like.
I don't know. I mean, it does have a sense of familiarity to it, but I don't.
It's got like a bouncing, like you hear it in a musical, maybe even. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like a da 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 da. I don't know what that could be from.
Yeah,
it does feel familiar though. You're right.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know what it's from though. I couldn't pick up on what that might be. But I think like this song is sort of it's the culmination of these three songs that show the direction that the band takes in the future. I think this is like probably like the one that really points the way for where they're gonna go. Just because
great way to close out the side of the record too.
It's just like it's so heavy, and crunchy. It's really cool.
It's weird you say that though, because I feel like the next record is not very heavy or crunchy.
Have you listened to it recently?
Oh, did the remaster change it? Twisted by Design?
No, I mean Twisted by Design it goes so dark in tone. It has a lot of common elements with this song, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it is a lot like this one, and we're in the balance though, like between the upbeat stuff and the heavy stuff. I feel like even on Twisted.
Yeah. I feel like everything on that record mostly either sounds sad or upbeat. I don't know. I never thought of that one as heavy.
Oh man,
I'm curious to get to the remaster on that one.
There's some pretty aggressive, angry songs on that record. I actually just listened to it yesterday.
Iceburn comes to mind off that album as being a pretty tough track.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of like really like songs that I think come I think are comparable to Bring Out Your Dead.
Yeah. Do you guys like the gang vocals at the end of this with like the chanting and stuff?
Yeah, I think it's cool.
I think it makes the song sound. This is one of the points where that remaster I feel like pays off because the end of this song sounds absolutely gargantuan with the vocals kicking in and everything.
Yeah,
it really
I
drives the song home, and like it's such a fitting end to that side.
Yeah, and like just I think the overall tone of the song really matches the lyrics well.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's about drug addiction, which it's nothing new, but it is well done.
And it's also nice to just not have it be like skeletons in your closet. Like Bringing Out Your Dead is a little bit change of pace in terms of terminology, even though it's pretty much the exact same intention.
Yeah.
It's nice to not just go with those same old, titles and lines and things.
So, I mean, sort of with that though too, it seems like it's like the story being told is like it was originally done to kind of like self-medicate from like childhood trauma or something. And
Yeah, I
then
got a vibe like that too.
ends up like, being its own prison sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's really well done. I think it's great. All right, that's gonna do it for side 1. So let's take a break. Let's play a game. You got a game for us, right, Josh?
It's a quick one, nothing too crazy. This game is called Would This Record Be Better If This Band Was a Ska Band? And I say yes, because Strung Out as a ska band would be wild.
It's a great Alex, do you remember my thoughts on this?
No, I don't.
Oh, I did not listen to them for a long period of time after first hearing them because they weren't a ska band, and I felt like with the name like Strung Out, like what the fuck else would you be?
It does sound, yeah. I mean, it does sound like a band that would be on a Moon Ska compilation.
Yeah,
So you don't need to worry about changing the name.
certainly not. No.
The Flaming Tsunamis have proven to us, and Folly among others, that you can mix metal and horns and it works. Link 80 covered Metallica and it absolutely bangs.
I mean,
Strung Out would do crazy Streetlight Manifesto level shit if they had horns.
Oh my god, stop it,
dude! Come on.
I mean, okay, that's like I put that in the same range as Celine Dion's grunge album. I would listen to that just to kind of see what it is.
Celine Dion?
Mariah Carey. I think.
Sorry.
Oh god, now I want to hear Celine Dion's grunge album.
Yeah,
I bet you it would sound like sound like garbage and not like shit. I mean, like the band Garbage.
Oh, I was thinking it would sound like Lilith Fair music. It wouldn't
I could
really
see,
be grunge,
yeah,
it
like
would just be like Meredith Brooks.
Maybe like like Indigo Girls, but like a more aggressive Indigo Girl song.
Yeah, I think Mighty Mighty Boss Tones are another one that kind of have like those metal moments.
Yeah, they go like, you get like a hardcore vibe. Like if you took the horns out of a Boss Tones record, you'd have a perfectly serviceable Slapshot album. So the verdict is yes, Strung Out would be better as a ska band.
Okay.
It would be probably better for them financially if they were. But
yes. Jason Cruz in a nice skinny tie with like a pork pie hat.
I mean, don't they wear suits a lot in like promo photos?
See? Halfway there. They basically are a ska band. I'm sure Jason has danced on stage at some point. He doesn't have to carry any instruments around.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, I'd be curious to see it. That's for sure.
I could see them going like a very RX Bandits route. Were they a ska band? Like getting into weird prog elements and things like that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally.
I'm surprised they haven't done more prog elements, honestly.
Yeah. I feel like that band's destined to go like full Between the Buried and Me at some point, like 12-minute like epics.
I mean, I haven't even listened to some of the more recent material, so maybe it does go there.
Yeah, it very well could be.
No, I think Blackhawks may have been the last one I listened to.
Blackhawks is where that's the one with the god awful artwork of the fucking cobra and stuff on the front, right?
No, that's Agents of the Underground.
That's the last one I listened to. That artwork was something else, man.
It's something. But the record itself is actually good. Like, I mean, I
remember liking like the majority of it. There was a handful of stuff I didn't care for, but that was kind of the case with a lot of those later Strung Out records.
Yeah, that's the same for me. Although I thought you said that at one point that you did listen to their most recent album and said that you were surprised at how much you were kind of into it.
Was that not Blackhawks?
It's called like Songs of Armor and Devotion.
Buddy, Blackhawks is like I think a decade old.
It is. Well,
Yeah,
At
I guess
least
I think
it's
you're
at
right. I
least
think I
from
did listen to it.
2010.
no, I think it's actually from like 2007.
I think so.
Yeah,
Oh, gee.
that's an old record, man.
I quit following them around that point,
Yeah.
I guess.
No, I completely get it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I'm just glad you have the same perception of time as I do, because everything else I say is like that just happened, and it was like 7 or 8 years ago usually.
We're old. It just starts to happen, man.
It's very true.
Yeah. All right. Let's move past Strung Out as a ska band and let's talk about side 2.
Fine.
This record's track sequencing, it's so like well balanced and
Dude,
like
it really
thoughtfully
is.
put together that it's almost like you get 2 amazing opening songs and 2 amazing closing songs on this thing.
Absolutely.
Because man, what a way to start the second half of your record with Rotten Apple.
And the transition from like how like dark and somber Bring Out Your Dead is to go right into this feels like a fucking shot of adrenaline, kind of.
Yeah.
Well, the best part is it's basically the same topic. It's like a lighthearted version of Bring Out Your Dead.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that for sure.
I got big like jaded scenester vibes from this too. Like the guy who's just too old and too cool for the shows anymore, and like cycles through his hobbies of like woodworking and brewing his own beer before going back to telling stories about how great the scene used to be and the way it was. Just another rotten apple.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it being about a person like that just refuses to move on.
Yeah.
And we do get a lot of these types of songs from punk bands that talk about like the aging scenester. But I think even more generally, I think Jason's pretty young here, so he's probably just even thinking about how he doesn't want to turn into that person.
That too, yeah.
Because he says, so many times I've stared into the eyes of the young, the old, the lonely, and the wise, just to find a glimpse of all that I have not seen, just to find some place for my jaded mind. Yeah, I think he's just reflecting on what it is to be that kind of person that doesn't want to evolve, and he's very much, like I said before, a person that's all about that growth mindset, which I can get behind.
Yeah, the fear of becoming that.
Yeah. But yeah, just the song, it's fucking awesome. It's a great song. It's one of my favorites too.
Yeah, this is another Fat Comp classic. I think this is Fat Volume 3, maybe.
Was it this
I
one?
think so. The one with like the newsprint cover with like the
Mhm.
2 guys finishing the marathon.
Yeah.
I think this was on that one, but it was the demo, and it was Rotten, ROTTEN Apple.
Oh, wow. Well, that's a fun fact for you.
Yeah, very useless.
I don't remember
That's
that
about
one.
the only thing changed. That's about the only thing I think that changed from the demo to the album version I can remember anyway.
Yeah. So, let's talk about Radio Suicide, because I thought the Radio Suicide was the one that was on a comp, because I just remember.
I think that one was too.
Was it? Okay, that makes more sense, because I remember it was Radio Suicide was, I think this was the first song that I heard from this record, and I remember that because as soon as I heard it, I was like, okay, I gotta go buy this thing. Where do I go to buy this thing? Because Radio Suicide is, it's so hard for me to say, but this is like in contention for my favorite song on this record.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you if you like this better than Firecracker, because I feel like they're very close for me.
It's not even between those two. For
No?
me. No. I think Radio Suicide is better than Firecracker.
Okay.
I think so anyway. Because man, that guitar lead is just amazing. It's like an instant hit. As soon as I heard it, I just like I had to go buy this record, and I did, and I just
Nice.
I just listened to it like the whole thing constantly, over and over again.
I was wrong, by the way. Fat Music 3 had Ultimate Devotion from
Oh,
the following album on it.
yeah. So it was probably Fat 2, the second.
Yeah, it would have been either
Okay.
1 or 2, probably. I'm looking to see if I can find some track lists right now.
Yeah.
I don't normally like songs about music by musicians.
I was gonna mention this.
I typically just think it's usually makes for like boring content.
Yeah.
But this is a really, really well done,
Right.
really, really
It's
good
so
song.
these I
Yeah.
think this song has the best lyrics on the record for me, which I think helps push it to the top. Because it's like, it's a song about music, but not about playing music, which I think is really important.
Yes.
Because we get
Yeah.
Yeah.
because we get so it's just so hard to, as a listener who's not a musician, it's so hard for me to relate to people who are talking about being in a band and going on tour. Ben, you and I have talked about this a lot about how much tour songs suck, man. They're just not they're not
Specifically,
interesting.
specifically Tour Song on the Bivouac CD version.
Yeah, I mean I completely agree. That song sucks.
I feel like they can be good if you can put an angle on it. Like Kid Dynamite did like SOS is basically a tour song, but it's also like a love song too.
Mhm.
So it kind of works around just being a tour song. But yeah, I feel like you have to do something like that to kind of
Yeah, you
make it more humanized and relatable, because the large chunk of your audience isn't going to get what you're saying.
no.
Tour life is hard.
I mean, it probably
It
does
is.
suck a lot of the time, man. Like
It does.
I can't argue, but yeah, it's hard to
Tell me a
know
funny
what that's really
story.
like. Yeah, exactly. It's hard to know
Tell
what
me a
that's
funny
like.
story about pissing off like local police while you're out
Yeah,
on.
there's that great Set Your Goals song about how like Zoe Teglis is a weirdo and like shooting off fireworks and all kinds of fun. It's like a whole song about just doing dumb things on tour. And it's great because that's all it is. It's just stories and like weird. Zoli Teglis writes his initials on his bananas. I don't know if you know that.
What?
So this is a story. This is all hearsay. Zoli Teglis, you're an amazing singer. I love Ignite. I don't want to get beat up by you.
His
You still
So
biceps are
drive all
bigger
the
than
way
your
to
head.
Cleveland.
yeah, dude. Yeah, he's so strong and like I just don't. He'll sing really well while he beats the shit out of me, and I just don't want any of it. I don't want that smoke. I'm not trying to get hands here, but Set Your Goals toured with Ignite and Crime and Stereo and like another couple bands on like a European like package tour. A friend of mine was playing for Crime and Stereo at the time and would just text me, periodically about how tour was going or whatever, because it was kind of like his first venture into that world. And he goes, "So Zoli Teglis is really nice, but he is the most intense guy I've ever met." And I was like, "Really?" He goes, "He initials all of his food." He goes, "All of his bananas have a big Z on them in marker." He goes, "You're not allowed to eat Zoli's bananas." And to this day, that's like the two hardcore factoids that I keep in my head are that Choke from Slapshot was a hairdresser and doesn't like it when you bring it up, and Zoli writes Z's on his bananas.
Yeah, I mean this is the best material that we've got to talk about.
Dude,
I swear to God.
this is the content you come to this
That's
podcast
right.
for.
Yeah, I'm here for
Ska
it.
band strung out in Zoli Teglis bananas.
Yeah, that's great. Um, but yeah, going back to the lyrics on this song in particular. Yeah, I mean because the song is about the connection that you form with music and like what that does to your
Yes.
brain, and I love that. It's so cool. And the way he like I love these lyrics. He says, "I hear that voice again emerging from the stereo. Invisible electric life flows right through me. Then for a moment I forget about what's going on and the world falling around loses its urgency. It's just another transmission from a place that we all want to be." And I just think that's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
It
you
does a
really captured it.
beautiful job.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does a perfect job of that vibe of going to see your favorite band for the first time, or, unwrapping that new album for the first time, and just that thrill behind it. It's just perfect.
Yeah. And I just got to give a shout out to that solo that comes right after the line "My song came on the radio," because damn man, it's just I could listen to that over and over again. It's so great.
Dude, they're artists with that stuff. Like it's their ability to like place a solo in like just the right spot and just accent the song perfectly is really beautiful.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about somnambulance. Just about insomnia. Have either of you ever dealt with insomnia?
I would say not in the like probably not in any sort of diagnosable sense, but
Yeah.
I mean
Right.
definitely like struggled with, stress related issues with sleeping and things like that for years. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's where, yeah, I would say the exact same thing goes for me.
All over the place for me. It just kind of depends. I have to be really careful about drinking caffeine after noon, um, or I have just the worst time. The
Oh
worst
God.
is when when I'm not thinking and I go to like a Mexican restaurant and get like one of their giant glasses of iced tea that they give you there,
Oh
and
shit. Yeah.
suck down 3 or 4 of them. I'm just
Just
I don't I don't fall asleep that night.
They
yeah, just
get
full of burritos and wired on Lipton brisk.
Oh
Yes.
man, they give it to you in that big red like Pizza Hut
Yeah.
plastic cup.
It's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
good.
The textured glass that is super light somehow, like it defies material expectation.
Um, yeah, just any like whether it's like an actual like diagnosed problem that you have or if it's just stress related, it fucking sucks.
Oh yeah.
Um, and
And it's like a breeding ground for the worst fucking thoughts in your head
yeah,
too.
you feel like you just go insane. Like you're just not, I've had periods of time where it's just, and it's all related to jobs that I've worked. Most recently, back in 2020, like I was just getting pushed so hard that I was having a really tough time sleeping, and I just remember it was making me feel like I was absolutely just out of my mind.
Oh yeah.
Getting
I
like
mean, it affects you in so many ways.
getting like 3 and 4 hours of sleep a night for weeks on end. It was terrible.
Yeah, it's bad. Sleep is important.
Very,
Do
very
more
important.
do more of it, everybody. Sleep more.
Yeah,
Um,
that's one of those things I think when a lot of us are younger, we take very much for granted.
Yeah.
Getting to bed at a reasonable time and things like that. I mean, there's years of the three of us on the internet having conversations at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning about albums and shit when we very, very well should have just been sleeping.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Welcome to the Old Man Podcast.
It's true.
But this song, I think this song for me is maybe underrated. I don't think
Yeah.
when I talk about, I mean, it's not that I know a whole bunch of people that like that listen to this album other than you guys and maybe like two other people. Nobody ever talks about this song in particular, but I love this song. It's got like a really good like it's a good tonal change for this point in the record to sort of break things up a little bit. Especially after that like back to back like really fast and catchy songs we just talked about.
Yeah.
And then you get to this one and it's still got like a really good hook, but it's definitely darker and like more of like a down tone to it.
Yeah. It's another song where their ability to match the tone of the lyrics to the tone of the actual music always again impresses me because I mean it really does feel the way those words read.
Yeah, definitely. Um,
So at this point, I found myself thinking, you know, side two is just not bringing the same type of energy that side one did. Like
really.
side one was just like all out, balls to the walls, where this side's a little bit more mellow, comparatively.
Yeah, it
Um,
kind of the second side feels sort of roller coastery to me where like you hit the top and like it's a rush right down on those first two songs that are kind of quick and then you're climbing again with these slower songs and then those last couple tracks it's another kind of you hit a little burst of speed again there.
Yeah. What's actually kind of crazy about the whole record is that when I was reading one of those interviews with Jake Kiley, he mentioned that I think this entire like every song on this record was either playing at like 200 beats per minute or something, or it was just like yeah.
That is insane.
So it's just like the whole record. That's the sort of the crazy thing about this record is that it is all very fast. Remove it
Yeah.
from the context of the album and pretty much every one of these songs you can consider to be very fast.
The drumming in particular is like inhuman on this album.
I mean, he's a fucking machine.
Some
And
of those fills, I don't understand. Like it's just confusing to even hear a human being play like that.
yeah, yeah, especially on the last track. Um, all right, let's talk about 6 Feet. This is probably my least favorite.
Yeah.
It just like I still like it. It it goes by so quick, and it is sort of 6 Feet and the following track, Speedball, it's another one of those track combos that's sort of like they're like two halves. They go together.
Yeah.
And they sort of like they relate to each other pretty strongly.
Yeah,
Um,
it feels like a small picture, big picture
mhm.
relation where like one feels very day to day, and the next one feels very like dread, like existential world dread.
Yeah. But I think that it's really necessary that this track is here. Like I would never ever cut this song from this album because of how it leads into Speedball. Um,
Yeah.
it just does like it does like a really great setup for for Speedball. Um, but yeah, this is just it's another song about the passage of time, and I get so many of these types of songs in the albums that we've talked about. Just people realizing too late that they didn't do enough, and now they're regretting it, type of deal.
Yeah, it's
Um,
a very much like a work till you're dead vibe, and
yeah,
what do you have to show for it?
yeah, and yeah, it covers off on a topic that every record we're going to talk about today has a song about this exact thing. Um, and just like it's just punk bands fucking love calling out the sad state of working culture. Um,
Yeah.
it's like the last part of the song. He says, "Soon that weekend will come. I'll get to have a little fun then. It's back to my 40-hour grave." Like, it's not profound, but
No, it makes
you
its
know,
point, and it's not any sort of world revelation. It's
no,
not going to shock anybody, but it's something that you can relate to.
sure.
I mean, Clinton years just didn't really create the type of punk that the Reagan years did. You know,
Yeah.
like you got to really find other stuff to talk about.
Absolutely. They do get to have a lot of fun in the song musically, though. There's a lot of great guitar work and jumping all over the fretboard type up and down stuff.
Yeah.
I really like this. So I like 6 Feet once the "What's It Take to Be a Man" part kind of sets in like that.
Mhm.
It kind of like goes off from there. I thought was really good.
I agree. It does like that change up does work really well because it just like it suddenly switches to him doing more of like he's more singing. It's way more melodic the way that he's approaching the vocals.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Um,
that feels like a very common theme with this record where a lot of the songs have like an A plot and a B plot kind of where like the
mhm.
song sort of turns in the second half.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Um, but sort of the true second half of the song is Speedball, which this this song I love this song. It
good
just
song.
fucking fires off, man. Just
There's that 200 beats per minute you were talking about.
seriously, it just fucking goes. It's crazy. It's so fast, or it feels so fast. It feels faster than any of the other songs. Am I?
It absolutely does.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
This and Wrong Side of the Tracks are like tripping over their feet to get to the end of this record. Like they're neck and neck.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, maybe that has maybe these were some of the songs that Jake was talking about in the interview about how they just kind of like push through it and just like rush through it. Um, but
Yeah, if you
goddamn,
play it fast enough, nobody will notice. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Literally rush through it. I mean,
Yeah, it sounds like the drums are gonna come apart.
it absolutely the whole sounds like the whole band's gonna come apart. Like it's just it sounds like a pressure cooker ready to just completely pop the rivets.
Yeah. Um, and I do love that like that first part, it just like it goes so fast and then it stops and then it starts
Yes.
again.
yeah.
I love that. Love that shit. Um,
I'm a big fan of a dead stop in a song. I feel like it's so when you use it right, it's
yeah.
so effective.
Oh my god, yeah. Completely agreed. And then one of my other favorite moments in this song is when the bass takes the lead during the solo towards the end. It's just like it's something that unfortunately it gets buried in the
Yeah,
remaster, and it just
it
kind of
really does.
it ruins it. And that's a real crime because it's one of my favorite parts in the whole record. Just the bass at the end of the song is just so good.
Yeah, when I looked at the remaster just for the heck of it, rather than starting at Firecracker, I just picked songs at random.
Mm-hmm.
This was the first one I went to, and I went, "Oh my god, there's zero bass." Like you tell right away, and this is one of the most apparent songs.
Yeah, yeah, and it's another reason why I was just so disappointed with the remaster.
Yeah,
Even though I mean, in listening to it I did listen to the remaster like 3 or 4 times just to kind of like just to see if I could get over my bias, and I couldn't
yeah,
really do that, but I definitely admit that like there's definitely, like you said before, there's parts of this record that do sound much
yeah,
better. I just don't think that overall it does.
yeah. I would strongly agree with that. There's parts that work, but for the most part, it's not for me.
Okay. Last track. This is my favorite song on this record.
Nice.
I just think it's amazing. I do love how fast it is. That drum solo that starts it off is just that's one of those moments where you're just like, what are you doing? It's just fucking destroying his kit, man. Just fucking pounding it out.
I think I always think that that drum intro should be the intro to Gearbox too,
Oh,
because
interesting.
like it sounds like a bunch of gears grinding against each other
It
almost.
really
Yeah, no, you're
does.
right. Yeah. Um,
Man,
yeah.
this is
It's
the other thing. Like this band is so good at bookending albums. Like they're always good at intros, but the closers are
they're
always almost equally powerful.
they really are. It's a Me and Ben talked about this last time. It's a fucking skill.
Oh, absolutely.
And they are so good at it. It's ridiculous because even on the records that I'm not so hot on later, they
Hmm.
still manage to make some killer closing tracks on almost all their records.
American Paradox comes to mind right away with Velvet. I think was it Velvet Alley, I think is
Velvet
the
Alley,
opening
yeah.
track.
Yeah.
And it's that quiet riffing with the light singing, and it's just a really good, ease into the record. And then Cemetery is just this very like big sweeping kind of like almost for them, almost like an epic of a song musically.
Yeah. They're very good at it, and I don't know. I think this is probably my favorite one out of all of them. Matchbook's another really good one.
Matchbook's up there for me for
Yeah,
sure.
but this one, I don't know, man. There's something about this one that always gets me. Um, it's just so good.
Matchbook is quite a tearjerker. I think I probably prefer this one.
Yeah, yeah. If you can get away with just having a little more fun, this is the one to go with.
Oh yeah, for sure. This
And
was
it's sort of a song that's just about like fuck it anyways. It's like
yeah.
it's like the lyrical version of just living goblin mode. It's just like fuck it. I'm gonna do what I want. I'm gonna eat what I want. I'm gonna fucking stay out all night. I'm not going to work. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely this is a song that somebody in their early 20s writes.
For sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
Um,
Especially someone that's in their early 20s and is in like a touring band and doesn't really have to do a whole lot other than make sure he gets to practice and gets to the studio and gets to the show.
yeah. But my personal favorite part of the song, though, like lyrically, is when he says, "Seems like every time I try to gain a little ground, I wind up right back where I never thought I'd be," which I think is just like a really
That's a great line.
great line. And I can relate. Like, just
Oh yeah, absolutely.
you try to make plans for life, and life just says no.
Yeah, like with
No, that's not how it's gonna be. Um, and that is captured very well in that line. Um, yeah. And the other thing I really like is that I like the way at the very end of the song that it like it has that sort of that roller coaster, just like it winds down and then
Mhm.
it winds back up and it leads directly back into Firecracker if you've got it on repeat. It works really, really well.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can
the
just
record loops
it
perfectly.
loops really, really well, and I think it's a really cool touch. Um, and again, I don't usually listen to a record and then just immediately start listening to it again. But this one, I used to do that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a record that if I'm listening to it, I'm probably gonna end up listening to it at least twice while I'm like if I throw it on at work or something like that.
I mean, it just goes by so quick anyway. You might as well.
It does, yeah. Even for 14 songs, which I'm notorious for complaining about anything over like 11 tracks.
Well,
Uh,
it's actually 13.
right, yeah, that's
yeah.
true. 14 with the remaster bonus, but yeah,
Yeah.
13. But it still just blows by.
Yeah. That's another thing that I don't care for on the remaster is like tacking that on the end kind of ruins that
Yeah, and it's
ability.
also a weird one to tack onto that record.
Yeah, I don't know why it's there.
Oh well.
It's not even it just doesn't even feel like it should be there.
No.
But as far as B-sides go, something that probably would have worked on this record and we'll talk about much later is Novocaine, which sounds like it. I don't know when exactly they recorded the song, but it sounds
I
like
don't know.
it sounds like it could have come from these sessions, and I don't know that it did. It might have even been something they recorded around the time of Twisted by Design. But damn, Novocaine's a great song. But it does feel like that feels like it is a true B-side from this record. It just has that same feel, which is really great. All right. Any final thoughts?
I love the original more than I love the remaster.
Agreed.
I had a big gap between when I had been listening to the original and when the remaster came out. So I don't even hardly remember what the original sounds like at this point.
Oh man. Yeah.
Like I can tell that it's different, but like I,
Yeah.
really I need to go look that up on YouTube or some shit.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. And yeah, this is one of those situations where I got really annoyed with the fact that I always had to go on YouTube to listen to it. Because I mean, I don't have any of my CDs. They're all back at my mom's house.
Gave all my CDs away at one point.
I mean, I probably should, but
Yeah.
like, I would at least keep all the fat stuff, which would be like a pretty large chunk of my collection.
Yeah.
I bought it seems like once you get to like Haas, I probably owned most of the records we're going to talk about for the next like couple seasons.
Yeah. For sure, for sure.
All right. Speaking of other records, let's talk about the rival records. We're going to talk about some. I mean, this record's a tough one to find something that directly relates to it. So we sort of had to pick records that are on different ends of the spectrum of what Strung Out was doing here.
Well, that's what we did, I think, for the first
Right.
Strung Out episode.
Yeah,
too.
it just to further highlight the fact that they're doing something that is still unique. You still don't hear anybody try to attempt this kind of sound. There's just nothing else out there that sounds like this record, and I think it's another one of the reasons why I think it's so like beloved and just people still really like love just love talking about it. So first up, we're going to talk about Deadguy, Fixation on a Coworker. Ben, this was your pick, I believe.
Yeah. So, I think this is a good record to look at for this. I mean, there were a bunch of different records I was considering that kind of just were a blend of metal and punk music in some way or another. But, this is a really good record that came out at the time. Also, probably a record that I would anticipate you two might enjoy more than some of the other ones I might pull.
I like this more than Unbroken, for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I probably would have also. It's been a long time since I've jammed Unbroken, but I think I would definitely have preferred Deadguy.
Yeah.
So the one thing I think from listening to this for this episode in particular, I mean, I listen to a lot of these songs pretty regularly still, but was that there's a lot of similar themes in the song lyrics between the two albums.
Definitely.
I feel like it's the drug addiction, troubled relationships with your family, general decline of society, all on display here as well. And so, I think Deadguy's going to a much darker place with it
Oh,
than Strung
yeah,
Out did.
for sure.
And on Suburban Teenage Wasteland Blues, like they have this kind of, despite all the strife, there's like this positivity that's like behind it. Like there's this hopefulness, even if it seems like there's no hope.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, my favorite songs on this are "Pins and Needles," "Die with Your Mask On," "Makeshift Atom Smasher," and "Nine Stitches."
Makeshift Atom Smasher was the one that really stuck out to me too, because we were, as you mentioned, Snapcase earlier. That song has such a Snapcase vibe to it. I
Yeah.
really dig it.
Yeah. The general vibe of this record I would describe as menacing. I mean, it's
Yeah, aggressive, menacing, a
it's
dash of despair. Like
it's fucked up, man. Like
it's a record that sounds like a fight.
it's yeah.
Like not like a cool like wrestling fight where
No, like
people are
two
street
guys
fight.
two guys beating the shit out of each other in an
Yeah.
alley, like
It's a-
not even near a bar. So it's not like it's a bar fight.
Yeah.
It's just two guys beating the Christ out of each other.
maybe like rolling on the ground, one's like
Yeah.
biting the other's head or something like that.
Or like in front of like an empty parking lot. So it adds an air of like danger to it because like there's no other outside influence other than just these two angry people. It's like the distillation of aggression is what I feel like this record is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did anybody else think it reminds me of Dillinger Escape Plan in terms
Yes,
of like
I was gonna say Botch and Botch and Coalesce were my two reference points.
Oh, okay.
Which
Yeah.
is all the same umbrella. I mean, those bands are all so similar and
Yeah.
have crossed paths so many times.
Yeah, it just made me think of Dillinger Escape Plan, especially because of like the willingness for these like for them to just like change directions
Yes.
out of nowhere is definitely makes me think of Dillinger Escape Plan, and it's really cool, and I'm really into it.
It certainly had to have had an influence on Dillinger Escape Plan.
I feel like that
they're
had
both
to
New
have.
Jersey bands,
Mhm.
similar sounds.
Right, yeah. I feel like all
This-
those bands, it was like the metalcore equivalent of like the 70s when you had all those huge directors that came up at the same time and they were all like watching each other's movies and stuff. It was like Lucas and Spielberg and De Palma and Coppola. This is like the metalcore version. You've got like Deadguy and Botch and Coalesce and Dillinger all like feeding into each other's like aggression and weird songwriting styles.
So I know. Wait, was Botch from Seattle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're in the what's the name of is it just Straight Edge the movie? Yeah, the movie about the Seattle punk scene in the 90s.
I've never seen that. I don't think
that
I've
the
heard
name
of
of the
that.
movie?
Yeah, I don't know that one.
No, it's The Edge of Quarrel. That's what I was thinking.
Oh, okay.
I've heard of that. I've never seen it.
Yeah,
Yeah, the names. Yeah.
They have a live Botch set in that.
But is Coalesce from New Jersey or?
Yeah, I don't know where I
like,
got the Jersey thing came from. I
the
think I just.
South.
I'm just curious because I mean, like I don't know, like
North Carolina.
from what I remember. Oh, okay. Just from what I remember, I can't really recall those bands. But yeah, I believe, everything you're saying about the similarities.
They're actually KC, not North Carolina.
Oh, huh. There's not really a whole lot of stuff coming out of Kansas City.
No, not at all.
Take the train to Kansas City.
The Royals.
I really like the album art for.
I love the album art on this
record, and I will say, like, I also absolutely love the album art for Suburban Teenage Wasteland Blues. I think it's really just like a really cool like collage retro 50s.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
It reminds me of Green Day's Dookie a lot, like the aesthetic of it.
Oh yeah, totally. It seems it has that sort of like cut and paste collage type of deal.
Yeah,
it's really neat. I'm a big fan of that, but I also this one has some really I think striking album artwork. Just like the fact they have that guy and you can only see the eyes up, and he's wearing that like door-to-door salesman hat almost, like
he's got the LA Noir hat on.
Yeah,
and if you look at his eyes on the artwork too, it's an aggressive like glare at someone.
Yeah.
Like he's not just like looking for something. Like that's him like beating the guy up in the parking lot.
Oh, he's
like,
walking
up to him.
He's
trying to find him.
Maybe it's about Frank Grimes.
Oh, grimy.
Fixation on a coworker?
Yeah.
He was very fixated on Homer.
I mean, he was basically Milo.
um, you know, it's another thing that I didn't even realize until I was looking at the artwork yesterday. But you know how Strung Out uses that they call it the Astrolux.
Yeah, I know
Um,
exactly where you're going with this.
yeah,
As soon as you said that, I just saw it.
right? Like it has that same look to that graphic that's around Deadguy's
Yeah,
name.
behind their font, yeah, their logo.
Yeah, and I just thought that was
That's trippy.
super weird. Uh, it's just a strange coincidence. Um, yeah. I mean, like I'm generally not even into this type of thing, but I think this record's really cool.
Yeah, it bangs real hard.
Um, I mean I agree with Ben in that Pins and Needles, man, that song goes so fucking hard. It's awesome.
Die with Your Mask On, like you said too, is another really great one.
They made masks during the pandemic based on that.
I was
Really?
hoping they would have when I saw that song title, because I know that like they had done some more stuff recently.
Yeah, they came
Yeah.
back. That was the other thing is they just recently came back. Or have they been back for longer than I'm thinking that they have?
No, I think they were supposed to come back maybe in 2020,
Oh.
play a
And then
reunion show, and then because of the pandemic, it got canceled. But yeah, they recently played, like in the past year, I think somewhere.
nice.
Brooklyn, probably. Always Brooklyn.
I'd be interested to see if they have plans for any new stuff.
I kind of figured that they
Uh,
did.
I mean, Tim Singer, the singer, has a band called Bitter Branches. That's been
Oh,
putting out
interesting.
new
Dan Yeaman?
music. Dan Yeaman's in Bitter Branches?
Yeah, you haven't. Oh man, yeah,
I did not know that.
yeah.
I didn't
Damn.
even know. I watched him live, like a live set on Hate Type 6, and I didn't even notice that.
Yeah,
Unless maybe that was before.
Oh, I mean maybe, but he's in
Yeah,
that band.
that's
Damn, that
cool.
rules.
Yeah. So yeah, Bitter Branches it's intense. It's sort of like
Very
this.
similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was just gonna point out that Pins and Needles is that when I was talking about 6 feet, and the whole, your job is fucking bullshit and it's killing you. This is their version of that.
Sure.
Um, and another thing that I wanted to sort of call out to see if you guys agreed was that part where he says, "And you do it again, and you do it again," reminds me so much of that Turnstile song, "Come Back for More." He says like a very
Oh,
similar line and delivers it in like a very similar way.
I'll have to go back and check that out. That sounds
Check out
interesting.
Turnstile song. Yeah. Oh,
I really like that Turnstile song, so it just made me think of it. Um, the other really interesting thing that the last track on this record. I mean, first of all, it's really creepy. Just like the guitar slide with all the picking is just like at the beginning is really just like unsettling.
Yeah, it just feels like you're gonna get mugged or something.
All right.
This whole record, man.
But like the title of it, Crazy Eddie, it just like if you look at that and you look at the lyrics, I just like started like thinking that it's almost like a some sort of narrative about like a used car salesman that named Crazy Eddie that's like slowly losing his mind.
oh man. So I think, I mean, I didn't really look too far into the lyrics on this, but I think I just assumed that it was a reference to the Iron Maiden mascot.
Oh yeah, that could be too.
I don't know. But he literally, like some of the lyrics, he says, "I'm a used car salesman in a cheap suit. I'm a bad commercial screaming and pointing at you." He
I
says,
like that.
and he says, "But you're not going to stop until you've seen it all. I'm the hypocrite you want to be. For your amusement, you'll make me bleed. You'll make me. You need this." It's like it just made me think it's like he's like this used car salesman that just keeps having these people come in and want to test drive everything and they never buy anything, so he's just going nuts.
Yeah, just kicking the tires.
I'm Crazy Eddie and I'm gonna fucking kill you.
If you don't buy this car, I'm gonna hit you with it.
Also, like Riot Stairs, what a wild name for a song. All right.
You want to talk about the next rival record?
Yeah, let's do it because I love this one so much. Um, we're gonna talk about Pulley's Esteem-driven engine. Which, man, this is basically a Fat Wreck release masquerading as an Epitaph release. I mean, it's
It really is.
because it was produced by, or it was like I guess, yeah, recorded by Ryan Green. A bunch of the people in this band in the early iteration of Pulley were in Strung Out, and then like Matt Riddle was the bassist, and he went on to join No Use for a Name after this.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just it definitely, like, this feels like a Fat Wreck album. And I would say that just Pulley in general in the early years feel very tied to Strung Out. They're
Yeah,
playing
absolutely.
really fast. It's doesn't have that, metal element to it, but there's just a lot of like similarities.
Yeah,
And
those two bands
crossover.
and 10-foot pole too. I feel like the three of them are like this little trio, kind of all doing
Yeah.
very similar stuff.
Yeah, because both Scott and Jordan were in 10-foot pole,
Yeah,
formerly called Scared Straight, which is that material is not great, I will say.
no,
But
it's very rough.
but 10-foot pole's rev is really good.
Yeah,
It's
Unleashed is a jam too.
yeah, I didn't like the direction that they went once Scott left the band, but
Yeah, no.
it wasn't really for me.
But then Scott joined Pulley, and those Pulley records with Scott are great too.
Well, I mean, it's like his band.
Or well, yeah.
Yeah.
As-
Yeah, it's there's a lot of sort of common elements between Pulley and Strung Out, at least until at least until Jim Cherry leaves Strung Out.
Sure.
Then Strung Out very much changes a lot from there.
Aren't there a bunch of people from Pulley in Jim's next band too that zero down?
Yeah, I think so.
Probably, yeah, that would.
Pulley always felt like a farm system for all these bands, man. Because even later on, like they got I think that they had Tyler Rebbe on bass, and then he got picked out. Death by Stereo pulled him out, and he joined that band full time.
Well, I think it's because the reason that Scott left 10-foot pole was because they wanted to be a full-time band, and he
Yeah.
was kind of preoccupied with being a Major League Baseball pitcher.
Yeah,
Which
right
is
here in Cleveland.
Fucking crazy.
And then came back years later as a pitching coach.
Yeah, he's a talented man. It's not easy to become a Major League Baseball pitcher at all. And the fact that he can do that, and he's a pretty damn good vocalist, is that's impressive.
It's true.
Yeah, but I think this record in particular sounds like if you compare this to 10-foot pole's Rev, I just think this is just like way better.
It sounds so much like Lagwagon to me. Like there's some songs I listen to on this record, and it straight sounds like a Lagwagon song.
Well, yeah, I mean the song "Barf" definitely seems like a Lagwagon track.
There was the one with all the like initials SFBIHYD.
So I
also felt super Lagwagon-y to me.
Yeah, I had always wondered why like what that acronym actually meant, and so
Yeah,
I looked into it, and it's so dumb. It's
of course it is.
Stupid fucking bitch. I hope you die.
Jesus Christ.
Dumb. That's so dumb.
It's very dumb.
Yeah.
But this record's, I mean, what year is this?
96.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not defending anything, but yeah, that tracks.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, the lyrics on this one, they're not like, it's not bad by any means in a lot of cases, in most cases, but it is like, you could tell it's written by somebody just much inexperienced, like
didn't get the point quite yet.
I just think from what I've read about Scott at this time, he was probably feeling very isolated because I read when I was going through some issues of Maximum Rock and Roll a while back, I came across an interview with Scott where he talks about the fact that he's had just recently left 10-Foot Pole and was going to start his own band. And he was basically like, the interviewer was asking him like, what's that like to be in like the sports world, and like how does that like do the guys that you play ball with, like, do they ask about your interest in music, like? And he was just talking about how he doesn't really like hang out with any of those guys, those aren't his
Oh
friends.
wow.
um I mean, and I just think like a lot of that probably carries over onto like the lyrics on this record, because there's just a lot of stuff that makes it seem like he's just kind of isolated.
Yeah. Man, that's tough. I didn't never even thought of I haven't even heard about that. That he just wasn't, he was kind of isolated in the locker room like that.
Yeah, I think he's one of those people that was like, no, the punk scene, these are my people. The
Yeah.
the baseball scene, yeah, just don't really relate to those guys.
It's work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just another working class whore.
He's just cashed in.
It
He
is funny
is,
to
yeah.
think about Working Class Whore being sung by him, even though Jim Cherry wrote that song. That makes a lot more sense
Yes. Yeah.
because, yeah, I don't know that Scott can really relate to that as a Major League Baseball player. I mean, I guess in some way, like, it is a grueling thing to be like playing baseball and be on the road for,
Yeah.
most of the year.
And you're kind of a commodity for an owner and
Right. Yeah. So
things
maybe,
like that.
yeah, so maybe that still works.
Yeah, you produce well. I don't know. I don't know who's producing value in on baseball teams, but
Right.
what was his WAR?
His what?
His wins above replacement. Sorry, it was a
Oh,
baseball.
no. I don't know. I just know that he was a relief pitcher.
Yeah, I don't know that he was outstanding, but I don't think he was like awful either.
I mean, he played for like 11 years, so
Yeah.
can't have been bad. It's
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's probably one of those middling kind of players.
it's hard to even reach that level. So
No.
the fact that he was able to stay is impressive.
Yeah, and that someone would want him back as a pitching coach too. I mean, that years down the line.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I really like this record a lot. I think the second half of it is much better than the first half. Um, in particular, there's a block of songs. Uh, She, Lifer, No Defense, and Silver Tongue Devil that are just like, this is like the heart of the record. I love these songs. I think they're just really, really good. Um, I love like you got Jim Cherry switching from bass on Strung Out to guitar, and
Yeah.
man, like it's a monster, dude. Like these riffs are so good. The so many like really creative guitar leads. It's like one of my favorite things about this record. So many of these like the beginnings of these songs are so memorable for me. Like there's just so many like really good ones.
Yeah.
Like just the way they start. And in some cases, the beginning of them is the best part.
A lot of great hooks on this record too.
Yeah.
Just the chorus hooks and things like that are really, really, really catchy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like Pulley with Pulley records, most of the songs on the record are very good or good.
Mhm.
But like there's in addition to that, there's always like one or two just fucking massive hits.
Yeah.
And on this record, it happens to be the first track on the record.
Cashed In is so good.
It's really
Cashing
good.
In is a fucking home run on this record.
Yeah, man.
It's was that Punkorama 2 staple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really great lead off track. I love that one too. But my favorite probably on the whole record is Silver Tongue Devil. And that's because it's moving so fast. I love the just that the vocal melody, just how fast it's moving, the guitar lead, like it's just really, really catchy and really cool. Plus it's like weird. It's the weirdest one lyrically, because it's like about meeting the devil in the desert. That's weird as hell. It's super strange.
Yeah, that is for them a very odd
Yeah,
approach to a song.
because the rest of the songs don't talk about anything like that.
Could it be like his sports agent or something like that? Like, don't they often? Well, they have like spring training also like in the desert.
Right.
So
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that'd be
Because I think that they would have been in Cleveland would have been in Arizona back then, as opposed to I think they're in like Florida for spring training these days.
yeah. But I also really I think what helps Silver Tongue Devil stand out even more is the fact that it follows No Defense, which I think is probably the most unique song on the record because it's so much more like atmospheric than any of the other songs because it has like those just the beginning of it. I don't know, man. They're doing something different there.
Yeah.
I wish I was more of a musician so I know how to describe it, but it is definitely it's got a mood for sure.
Absolutely, it does.
It's I mean it's like and it's so much more like epic sounding than most skate punk bands would ever even attempt. And I think it works really well.
It really does.
And that's I mean it's sort of a hallmark of Pulley. They're really good at doing those like slower, moodier tracks.
They really are.
And I just I also just love Pulley because they just want to play fast.
That's absolutely all that band does.
Yeah, that's great.
Seeing different. Uh, I thought that that one kind of reminded me at times a lot of the song "Runaway" that they released, I guess, on Together Again.
Hmm, that's interesting. I'd have to listen to those, but maybe yeah. Runaway. I remember like it's been a while since I've listened to that one, but uh, I remember that one being pretty good. Um, yeah, I mean, there's a couple tracks here that I think I'd probably just take off. I think One Shot is just dumb. It goes back. It's another one of those songs about I'm in a band. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. But he was right. He kept talking about how he'd still be there,
It's right.
and
It's
he
true.
was. He is.
It's true. They just
They
put out
always come back.
they literally
They
put
did
out
that.
they put out a record this year.
Yeah.
Love it. Listen.
I didn't either. I kind of I tapped out a while ago.
Yeah, the last one I really liked was Matters. Matters is a great album.
It was that would have been a good place to just leave it.
Yeah. I mean, at the one what was I don't remember the one after that, but I remember not being super impressed
Yeah,
by it.
there's an EP called Time Insensitive Material, I think.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And I remembered listening to it and being and like that was like I mean it was a pretty big gap between Matters and that. It was probably like
Yeah.
5 years. And so I remember like being pretty excited at the time like, "Oh, wow, it's been a while since we got some new Pulley." And I just remember not being that into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just they they had a really good run. And it's cool that they're still around. And you can actually go see them now. They do tour, which they never
Yeah.
used to do.
No, I've never seen that band.
I've never seen them either, but they are around. There's been a couple of times where I could have tried to go see them, and it wouldn't have been like too much of a trouble to drive out that way. But they're never close enough to me where I'm just like, yeah, let's do it.
They
Right,
don't
yeah,
play in
to bite the
LA
bullet.
at all.
Man, okay, so there's a lot of bands that are like when they play LA, what they're actually doing is they're playing Santa Ana. They'll play the observatory, and it's just too far sometimes for me to even want to bother. Um, it's just it's just such a pain in the ass to drive places that are that far away in this city. Um, if they were playing at the place where we saw Quicksand, then yeah, totally, I'd be there. Because that's pretty close. But I'm hoping one day I'll finally be able to see this band. And I hope that they're still good live.
I'm sure they are. They probably crush it.
Probably. But yeah, this record if you've never listened to it, you should check it out, especially if you're
Yeah.
listening to this podcast and you like all the Fat Wreck stuff. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, like you said, this may as well have been a Fat record.
Yeah, I mean, it's all hearsay, but I imagine that the only reason that this ended up on Epitaph was because of the relationship that they had with, from 10-foot pole with Epitaph.
Right.
Epitaph was probably just like, oh, you got a new thing? All right, let's do it.
Yeah, it could have also even been, and at the time, probably not, but it could have been like a first look or first chance at refusal sort of thing too.
Sure.
Where, your band breaks up or whatever, let us give it a shot. If we don't like it, feel free to take it, wherever you please.
Yeah. But it's a hell of a first album.
Yeah, it really is.
And they do get even better from here. I really like the next couple of records is like a steady progression.
Oh yeah, they're a super consistent band for the most part.
Yeah. They got some really fantastic material, and I'm sure I'll probably bring one at least. I'll at least bring the fucking. It's not a self-titled. It's the one with the curse word on it.
Oh yeah, the ampersand, pound sign,
yeah.
exclamation mark,
It's
whatever.
like the fucking weird ass illustration of that little big-headed
Yeah,
guy.
the kid screaming or guy screaming or whatever.
Yeah, it's a interesting album artwork, but it's just like
I always just call it the self-titled one because people seem to know it more.
Right. Yeah, I guess you could just call it that, but that one in particular is wow. That's a really good record.
Yeah, that'll pop back up. I'm sure way down the line, Matters will definitely pop up for a rival record too.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not the last you'll be seeing or hearing from that band on this show.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is going to do it for this episode of On the Record. If you have any questions, comments, or most importantly, corrections on anything that we might have gotten wrong, please email us at ontherecord@gmail.com so that we can set the record straight in a future episode. If you've been enjoying the podcast, consider liking and subscribing. It's going to make things easier for people to find it. We're on all the major platforms, Spotify, Apple. We're on YouTube. You can catch us in the flesh.
It's true.
It's a video podcast.
Throw us a review too; those help greatly.
For sure. Yeah, you can. Yeah,
I thought about an interesting thing to steal from Brett Goldstein's podcast from Ted Lasso. He plays Roy Kent.
Mm-hmm.
He does a movie podcast and he asks for reviews, but he says rather than review the show, rate it as you would, but instead of giving a review, tell us about your favorite Fat record and why. He does that, but asks people to list their favorite movie and why, because it feels more interesting and it allows us to connect to people and gives us some insight into what you guys like.
Absolutely. That's a great idea. Yeah.
So thank you to Brett Goldstein for allowing me to steal that idea.
And congrats on the Emmy.
Yeah, for real. Way to go, buddy.
All right. Well, we will be back next week to talk about Good Riddance's A Comprehensive Guide to Modern Rebellion. Thanks for listening.
It's going to be a good one.
It would definitely. See you next time.
Cheers.